A beautiful, loving wife disappears. Her husband, a man who seems to be hiding something, becomes the nation's prime suspect. The media calls him a monster, and people on the street call for his head. This is the story of the brilliant film Gone Girl, a work of fiction. But what if I told you this isn't just a movie? What if I told you that the strategy Amy Dunne used to control public opinion and destroy a man is being deployed every day in the real world and in the real courtrooms? This phenomenon is called the Gone Girl effect. How media manipulates justice. But before we can see how this effect changed the real world, we first need to break down the story of the film itself. So if you haven't seen Gone Girl, I'm giving you a major spoiler warning. To understand this analysis, we have to know all the plot's twists. The story begins on Nick and Amy Dunne's 5th wedding anniversary. When Nick comes home that his wife Amy has disappeared and the house is in disarray. Amy Dunne is a beautiful writer, the inspiration for the famous Amazing Amy children's book series. She is a beloved and popular figure across America. The police begin their investigation and almost immediately suspect the husband, Nick. Worried enough, his behavior is in front of the cameras is strange. He sometimes smiles and doesn't seem worried enough. At the same time, the police find Amy's diary, a diary that tells a shocking story, the tale of a perfect marriage that slowly turned into a living hell, with Nick becoming more aggressive and dangerous by the day. The media goes into a frenzy. They portray Nick as the husband who likely killed his pregnant wife. The anniversary treasure hunt clue Amy left behind are found and interpreted one by one, and each clue pushes Nick further toward guilt. Public opinion turns completely against him. Nick Dunne became the most hated man in America. And it's at this exact moment that the film delivers its biggest shock. Amy is alive. She's not a victim. She's a ruthless mastermind. We learn that this entire ordeal was a flawless revenge plot against her cheating husband. The diary was a fake. The crime scene was staged. The pregnancy was a lie, and the treasure hunt was a brilliant game to feed the media and destroy her husband. Amy Dunne knew that the media loves a simple story with an innocent victim and an evil villain, and she crafted that story with her own hands. Amy Dunne wrote the rule book for manipulating justice in the 21st century. She proved that if you can control the narrative, you can control the truth. Now, let's see how this fictional playbook has a terrifying real-world counterpart. Now, let's see how this fictional playbook has a terrifying real-world counterpart. Now that we know the Amy Dunne's playbook, let's turn to a case that is perhaps the most chilling real-life reflection of Gone Girls is in modern history. The story of Laci and Scott Peterson. On Christmas Eve 2002, Laci Peterson, who was 8 months pregnant, disappeared. From the very beginning, all attention turned to her husband, Scott Peterson, and the media, using the very same playbook as Amy Dunne, began to build their monster. Just like Amy Dunne, the media portrayed Laci as the perfect American wife, beautiful, pregnant, and loving. And just like Nick Dunne, Scott Peterson had a secret. He was having an affair with a woman named Amber Frey. As soon as this news broke, the game was over. The media found a simple story they wanted. A husband who killed his pregnant wife to be with his mistress. It didn't matter that there was no direct evidence. The narrative was set. Remember how Nick Dunne was condemned in the movie for smiling at a press conference? Scott Peterson suffered the exact same fate. His calm demeanor in front of the cameras was interpreted as cold indifference and a sign of guilt. Millions of people judge him not on evidence but on his performance for cameras. The media broadcast the details of his affair daily, pushing public opinion to a point where it would accept only one verdict: guilty. In the end, based largely on circumstantial evidence, Scott Peterson was found guilty and sentenced to death. The pressure from the media and the public was so immense that any other verdict seemed unimaginable. The story doesn't end there. Years later, Scott Peterson's death sentence was overturned due to juror misconduct, meaning the very trial that condemned him to die was flawed. And right now, as we speak, his lawyers are fighting for new DNA testing on evidence they believe could prove once and for all that Scott is innocent. Amy Dunne was a fictional character, but Scott Peterson is a real man who has spent 2 decades of his life in prison. His story is the dark mirror of the Gone Girl effect, and it leaves us with a deeply unsettling question. If one day Scott Peterson's innocence is proven, if it turns out he was telling the truth all along, will the people and the media, in the court of their own conscience, ever be able to forgive themselves? In which other famous case do you think the media played the role of the judge?